So right here is one of the coolest like boutique movie theaters in all of the Twin Cities. It's the Heights Theater. Can't recommend it enough. Today's video is a virtual tour on Colubmia Heights. Fun fact, I lived here when I lived in an Airstream. Different season of life entirely, but it was kind of sweet. Also, old school Dairy Queen. Fantastic. Let's get into it. How's it going, y'all? My name is Jesse Lynch and I run the hardest working real estate team in the game. We're called To The Twin Cities. You can check out our website, tothetwincities.com. P.S. I'm on an ice rink right now, which is why I'm walking funny. But this YouTube is all about helping you find a place to call home, a place to land here in the beautiful winter wonderland currently that is the Twin Cities. And that's whether you're buying a house for the first time or you're relocating here from a different city, state, country, or even planet. Like for sure some of y'all are, but first time home buyers, relocations, that's what we do, and that's what we do better than anybody else. So if either of those things appeal to you, do us both a favor, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified, give the video a thumbs up, and leave a comment. It's good for the channel, it's good for this video, it's good for other folks like yourself who maybe are considering making a move to the Twin Cities or just buying a house for the first time. Real quick, like open skate rink, right? And then skate rink, hockey rink, playground. Come on. What are we doing? This place is great. There's also a little pool over there. I think it's like a wading pool. But yeah, Minnesota's great. And if you are thinking about making a move here, then we implore you to get a hold of us and we will absolutely crush it for you. You can go to our website, tothetwincities.com. We have a contact form there. You can fill it out. Piece of cake. It'll take 30 seconds, honestly. Or you can shoot us an email directly to info@tothetwincities.com, and they both lead to the same spot, which is which is us. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from you, look forward to showing you around this amazing place that is the Twin Cities of Minnesota, and ultimately helping you find a home here. Today's video, it's a virtual tour of Colubmia Heights, a place fairly near and dear to my heart. It's actually a pretty nice, warm winter day, talking like 30 degrees. Once you've dealt with like cold winter, 30 degrees is a piece of cake. All right, let's dive into it. Colubmia Heights virtual tour, go. All right, y'all, right now I'm in Kodiak Park. Right over here, it's Highland Lake. It's a small, but very cute lake. There are some homes on it. So there's some lakefront homes over here, which any lakefront home in Minnesota is gonna be more expensive than one that is not. But then there's also this great park space. It's all wooded, it's beautiful. Walking paths, sort of like dining or picnic areas. A little bit of like a playground situation. This isn't really like a, like a municipal park in the sense of having like football fields or soccer fields or anything. It's more of a neighborhood park where you kind of come to walk the dog, hang out with friends and family and that kind of thing. But like I said at the beginning, I lived in Colubmia Heights for about a year, maybe a little more than that, but it was a weird situation. I was living in an Airstream in my friend's backyard. It was cool. It was a season of life. I like to say that it was cool until it wasn't cool. And then it was super not cool, and I was like, all right, this is enough of this. But Colubmia Heights itself remained cool the whole time. It's like very much, you know, sort of an up-and-coming neighborhood. If you watch the video where Nick and I talked about up-and-coming neighborhoods, then we mentioned Colubmia Heights. We are both bullish on it from an investment standpoint. We just see it as sort of the path of progress. For one, it is just to the north of Northeast Minneapolis, and Northeast Minneapolis is happening, right? And a lot of folks, a lot of first-time home buyers, and even some step-up buyers are looking to Northeast Minneapolis to find, you know, the perfect home for them. And because it's trendy, it's hip, it's got a lot going for it in terms of entertainment and breweries and bars and a lot of that stuff. But what we're finding is some people are priced out of Northeast, or at least maybe struggling to find a home that does the trick for them within their budget. And a lot of people are including Colubmia Heights into their search because it's right next door and has a lot of similar qualities and access to, you know, pretty much all of the same sort of activities and amenities because it's so close, but it's cheaper on average. If you took from where I was earlier at the Heights Theater, that's Central Avenue, right where I was, and you just keep on taking that to the south, then you're, you know, and probably only like 10 blocks from there, you're on Central and Northeast Minneapolis, which is where tons of restaurants, bars, shops, breweries are pretty much all up and down Central. The Arts District is in Northeast Minneapolis, so the proximity to Northeast and sort of the happeningness, the hipness going on there is definitely a driver for a lot of the folks that we're helping. But we'll get to some of the cost of living stuff in a second here. Geographically speaking, like I said, it's just to the north of Northeast Minneapolis, and technically Colubmia Heights is in Anoka County, which is a bit odd because it doesn't seem like it should be, but just the shape of Hennepin County kind of wraps around it. So that's probably the southernmost point of Anoka County is Colubmia Heights. But so to the north, you have Fridley, which we don't have a video on yet, but we certainly will. To the east, you have New Brighton and St. Anthony, which we do have videos on. Both really great spots, but more expensive. To the south, you have Northeast Minneapolis. Again, awesome spot. We have 2 videos on that actually, because the first video I ever shot of a neighborhood was Northeast, and I was like, it could be better. I could have done it better about a year later. So yeah, we have 2 videos on Northeast Minneapolis. And then to the west, you have Fridley, more of Fridley. And pretty much the river, the Mississippi River goes right there. And then interesting little geographic tidbit is there's a little neighborhood called Hilltop, which is completely contained in the Colubmia Heights neighborhood. It's like tiny, population of 744, and it's fundamentally like a manufactured home park, just right in there, Hilltop. I think there's maybe a little more to it, but for the most part, I think there's like a trailer supply company, yeah, and some other stuff. Very small, just right off Central, actually quite close to where I lived when I lived in my Airstream. Again, in terms of geography, Colubmia Heights is very conveniently located, specifically to downtown Minneapolis. Very slick, maybe 10-15 minutes to downtown Minneapolis. You're maybe 15 to 20 minutes to downtown St. Paul, and then you're maybe 30 minutes or so to the Minnesota MSP airport. And Colubmia Heights has a population of around 20,000 people, which, you know, pretty decent. And save a few of the very small cities like Hilltop, like one called Landfall, which is tiny. Colubmia Heights is one of the most dense, I think the second most dense city outside of Minneapolis, which is interesting. It doesn't feel that dense, except for the idea of like every square inch is covered, you know, with homes. There's not a ton of commercial within the Colubmia Heights boundary. So it's pretty, you know, other than a few parks, I would say do a good job with the parks. This is a great park, but save for a few parks, it's pretty much all single family homes. So makes it fairly dense. I would not think, it's not like super apartment heavy. So that actually does kind of surprise me, except just for the fact of it being absolutely chock full of single family homes. According to niche.com, it's the 3rd most diverse suburb in all of Minnesota and the 14th best suburb for young professionals, which, you know, take that for what you will. I don't even know how they come up with that sometimes, but I could see it. Proximity to the city, I could see it. Cost of living makes sense. As far as schools are concerned, the schools are just okay. You're looking at Colubmia Heights Public School District, which overall gets a C, C+, sorry, which again, not super great. And depending on the school you're going to, there's some combination between a B is like the highest rated school in the area, and a D is the lowest. I don't even see Ds super often. I mean, they're out there, but Colubmia Heights Senior High School, which actually is not far from here, gets a B. So that is probably like the you know, highest rated school in the whole area is the high school. So if you have high school age students or kids, then not too bad. A B, pretty decent, really. Colubmia Academy is more of like a middle school, that gets a C. Highland Elementary School gets a C. North Park School of Innovation gets a C. So a lot of like just okay grades as far as the schooling goes here. But where Colubmia Heights really shines is the home prices, right? I've hardly mentioned this yet, but like I said, folks who can't afford Northeast Minneapolis often come here. It's because the median sale price here is $269,000, which when compared to median home price of the Twin Cities Metro overall of $350,000, that's really good, right? So a lot of the folks who are priced out of Northeast Minneapolis but want the, you know, conveniences of that area, this is a really good spot. And that said, there are potential for really nice houses. Specifically, this area up by this park is really nice. The homes here are great. Here's sort of like mid-century vibes. Yeah, there are some potential for really, really nice homes here. And some of the spots, you know, like if you're 2 blocks, I actually helped some folks, some like a young couple buy a home in Colubmia Heights. Shout out Zach and Faith. Awesome people. And they bought maybe like a few blocks north of Northeast Minneapolis. I'm telling you, you can't tell the difference, right? Aside from, I suppose, you're paying taxes to Anoka County, and technically your address is Colubmia Heights. Lifestyle-wise, you cannot tell the difference between that spot and Northeast Minneapolis, or certainly like certain spots of Northeast Minneapolis. Like, I think it's Audubon Park. It's actually, which is where Steve from the team lives. It's close. You cross the street and you can there's not like I'm in a different spot. It feels extremely similar. You know, a couple things like that are more beneficial parts of Colubmia Heights is the cost of living technically is lower than the US average. The housing has a lot to do with that. It's not like you're going to be paying considerably less for groceries or the gym or anything like that. But yeah, the housing prices combined with all the other prices put it just a tick under the national average. And yeah, who can be mad about a spot like this, which, like, what a nice neighborhood this is. Again, this is gonna be more than the median of Colubmia Heights, but still cheaper than a lot of surrounding areas, and very, very nice. Okay, let's go for a ride, shall we? Let me show you around a little bit more. Let's dive a little deeper. All right, y'all, right now I'm in the aforementioned neighborhood of the folks who bought here relatively recently, the sort of front of mine because of that. And we're only a few blocks from technically where we turn into Northeast, not we, where we turn into Northeast. But yet the homes here are more affordable than the homes right over in Northeast. Right here is Ostrander Park. There's like a playground. It's the same as the other park, basically. Playground, an open skate, and like a ice rink. But these homes, you know, they're for the most part very well kept, and you know, they have modest size yards, but yeah, again, pretty affordable. Sub 300K is doable here, and that's it's hard to beat just about anywhere. But we're talking pros and cons of living in Colubmia Heights, and you know, for me, the number one is just going to be the affordability. You know, that is a huge factor, a huge sort of attractor of what brings people here. The second pro is that I would say it's diverse. It's culturally diverse here, and it's just, it feels like a bit of a melting pot here. And then third is that there's plenty of sort of amenities nearby, both a variety of cool, unique spots. There's actually a place called Tasty Pizza. I worked at one. It's so random, but I worked at one down in Burnsville when they had one. But yeah, that's in Colubmia Heights, and just cool, very good pizza if you're into it. Thin crust, I think, largely. And then also you have access to Northeast, right? So that's kind of another pro for me, is that access to the hipness of Northeast and just all the stuff going on there, right? Again, like the arts community, that is going to be, yeah, I feel like I've hammered that home, I apologize, but that is a big part of what makes Colubmia Heights great. And then I would say the next is the outdoor spaces. That park is just, you know, barely an example of it, but the park I was at earlier, and there's quite a few park spaces here that are very nice and very well taken care of and pretty accessible. A lot of sort of like neighborhood parks, in the sense of you can just walk to one, right? Like you can just leave your home, go down to the corner, or walk a few blocks, and you're at a really great little municipal park. There's literally wild turkeys back here. They seem a little bit out of place, if I'm being totally honest. And then for me, the next pro, this is one of the biggest pros as far as I'm concerned, especially for first-time home buyers, is that I see Colubmia Heights as being the path of progress. I see Colubmia Heights as being a wise investment, and I'm not Nostradamus, Housestradamus. Hey, that'd be a good thing, Housestradamus. I'm not house market Nostradamus, but I just see it as the path of where, you know, folks who can't afford Northeast are coming here. They're making their houses really cute, and so, you know, they're lifting, you know, all of the house prices up here, if that makes sense. And then last pro, which isn't like undeniably a pro, but I would say there are certain things about it that would be pros, which is that the houses here are newer than the houses in Northeast Minneapolis or the city proper. On the one hand, you lose some of the character, right? Like the craftsman homes of Northeast and of Minneapolis, you're not going to find those nearly as much here. You're getting much simpler, you know, more Rambler style, like this. You're getting some story and a half, some sort of Cape Cods, like that one, the white one back there. But with that just comes, you know, slightly newer infrastructure, and it's probably somewhere between, you know, from like the heart of Northeast to most of Colubmia Heights, we're talking 20, 30 years newer than a lot of the housing stock there. So yeah, newer infrastructure, certain things, windows are going to be a little more modern. If you know, if they haven't been fixed or replaced, but potentially they've been replaced, but that's true. And just so slightly more updated things. One thing you still are gonna find here is like lead-based paint, potentially asbestos, you know, hiding under things, just because it is still pre-1978. So that's true of so many homes all over the country. But yeah, just something to consider is that they're cheaper and a lot of the stuff is newer. Some of the layouts are just going to be more usable than some of the layouts for similar priced homes in the likes of Northeast. Okay, first con for me, you probably know what I'm going to say. I already kind of mentioned it. The schools here are just okay. Pretty mediocre school situation here in general. Second con is it's very densely populated. I think I said earlier, like second most densely populated city outside of Minneapolis proper. And then it's fairly renter dense. It's not crazy, but there are sections that are very renter dense. A lot of streets where it's like just duplexes, right? It's like duplex, 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 duplex. So those areas are going to be, you know, like very renter dense. And there are just, you know, certain things that come along with an area being renter dense, you know, that some people are not super into. Which actually kind of leads to the third part, which is that certain areas are a little dingier than others. There are still really, really nice areas here, and I don't want to imply that there are not, because there definitely are, but there are certain, you'll drive down certain streets and just, you know, it's like, okay, there's kind of a collective of not as well cared for homes here. And then for me, the last con is basically the housing stock is fairly homogenous. It's a lot of the same sort of like 20-year era, which is, in my opinion, a good era of home and well made, but not that exciting. And it's, you know, because it's a relatively affordable area and it kind of has always been like blue collar, it's a little more of like the like not super exciting grade of home from that era, right? Let's say 40s to 60s is probably the most common, but which there's some insane homes built then, but the homes in this area, because of probably, you know, the affordability of the area back then even, they're modest, right? And some of them are renovated beautifully and have so much potential, so I'm not trying to say anything bad about it, but if you're thinking you're gonna get, you know, some MCM beauty, unfortunately, that's, you know, there's not gonna be a whole lot of that here. Closer to lakes and stuff, yeah, you might find something like pretty special, but yeah, it's gonna be a little harder. Okay, let's go for a drive. All right, y'all, right now I'm in a neighborhood that I think is a good example of like middle of the road, nice, generally well cared for version of Colubmia Heights. And, you know, if I had to sum up Colubmia Heights, to me, it's all about the affordability for one. That's one of the biggest driving factors to Colubmia Heights, like without a doubt. Second is just going to be proximity to Northeast Minneapolis and just sort of similar characteristics to Northeast Minneapolis, but yeah, just the access to that, like, you know, the hipness that is there. Church bells, that's fun. but then also even proximity to downtown Minneapolis. It is a hop, skip, and a jump, to quote old people. I'm just kidding. If you say that, I apologize. I don't mean any offense. But very close to downtown Minneapolis. And then kind of the last thing is like, it's like this culturally diverse spot. It's one of the more diverse areas in the Twin Cities metro, and there's a whole bunch of character between the homes and the little nooks and crannies of the neighborhood. And if you watch these videos, you know that we have a section called our For Fans of section, which is to say, if you like what you see in this neighborhood, maybe check out some of these other spots, and they might be up your alley. It's probably kind of obvious. The first one I'm gonna say, because I've already mentioned it a handful of times, is Northeast Minneapolis. Big time. If you can afford more than the Colubmia Heights neighborhood, then the Northeast Minneapolis is going to just have more easier access to just a vibrancy and just sort of the culture of the city, as shops, restaurants, breweries, that kind of stuff, the art culture in general. But again, you're so close here, so if you can't afford it, not a big deal. And some people who can afford it are still gonna move here because you get a little more house for your money here, if that makes sense. Not that there's huge houses here, but maybe a little higher end finishes or something for the same money. That makes sense? I think that makes sense. I don't need sunglasses. Next spot I'm gonna say is that if you do have more budget, I would consider looking at St. Anthony. We have a video on St. Anthony. It's a very nice spot. Really beautiful homes. Some of the best examples of mid-century modern homes in all of the Twin Cities are in St. Anthony. Yeah, it's a very nice spot. So if you can afford it, check out St. Anthony. Next one that comes to mind is, and partly because of its sort of affordability, is going to be East Side, Greater East Side, St. Paul. And it has just a similar vibe. It's technically within St. Paul, but it's kind of on the edge, which is kind of what this feels like. Even though it's totally different county, different city, Greater East Side, St. Paul feels similar in a lot of ways. The housing stock is somewhat similar. The home prices are similar. I think even the schools have kind of similar ratings. So it's sort of that just on the edge of the city vibe, first ring kind of suburb feel, where it's not super expensive, but things are generally pretty well taken care of, nice park spaces and all of that. And then the last spot that really comes to mind is going to be Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. We don't have a video on that yet, but we will. Brooklyn Center is basically just to the northwest of Minneapolis. It's a little bit removed from here, but it's going to have a lot of similar qualities. The home prices are going to be similar, schools are going to be similar, and yeah, the ability to get like a pretty solid house for like sub 300K, you're definitely going to be able to get there. But look, no matter what it is, no matter what you're thinking, maybe this is way under your price range, that's cool. We have tons of other videos, so first of all, subscribe to the channel and click the bell to get notified if you have not done so yet. Truly, we are doing our best to cover like the entire Twin Cities metro, and when that's done, we'll do it again, because it'll be 2 years later and everything will have changed. Well, maybe not everything, but a lot will have changed, and we'll just keep doing it. Just keep up with the most immersive videos anywhere on the internet about living in the Twin Cities. And so if you are thinking about moving here, get a hold of us. Go to our website, tothetwincities.com. We have a contact form there. You can fill it out. It'll take 30 seconds. It's a piece of cake. Or you can shoot us an email directly to info@tothetwincities.com. It'll lead to exactly the same spot. So however you want to do it, cool, and we'll get back to you and we'll crush it for you. And as always, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified. I would appreciate it very much if you give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment of any sort. You can say Colubmia Heights is sweet. I don't care. You can literally say anything you want. And yeah, hey, fun fact, this is like, I didn't even realize how close I was. I'm like 2 to 4 blocks from where I lived in the Airstream. Crazy, just on the other side of this like commercial building off Central. Huh, how crazy is that? All right, well, thank you for watching. We made it. This has been a virtual tour of Colubmia Heights, Minnesota. And yeah, I hope you liked it. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.